question about the surge of federal agents to various cities.
Yeah.
The mayor of Chicago just said moments ago that you're doing this to divert attention from your failures on coronavirus. You are only targeting
But we
cities.
haven't had that failure.
You are only targeting cities, though, run by Democrats. Is this just a political stunt?
Yeah, the cities, unfortunately, that are in trouble are all run by Democrats. You have radical left Democrats running cities like Chicago and so many others that we just had a news conference. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, that's the facts. When you look at Chicago and you look at the job, Mayor Lightfoot sent me a letter yesterday, and I think in their own way they want us to go in. There'll be a time when they're going to want us to go in full blast, but right now we're sending extra people to help. We're arresting a lot of people that have been very bad. As far as the coronavirus, as you say, I think we've done some amazing things, and I think you'll probably see that if you compare our statistics to other countries, and if you look at death rates, et cetera, you're going to see, and especially into the future with what's happening, you're going to see some very, very impressive numbers for the United States. John, please. Go ahead, John.
Mr. President, do you plan to do a national strategy to help schools reopen and reopen safely? And regarding the children in your family, your son, your grandchildren, are you comfortable? Do you plan to have them back in person in school?
Yeah,
this
well, I
fall?
am comfortable with that. And we do have a national strategy, but as you know, ultimately it's up to the governors of the states. I think most governors, many governors, want the schools to open. I would like to see the schools open, especially when you see statistics like this. We have great statistics on young people and on safety. So we would like to see schools open. We want to see the economy open. We just had a report, literally as I walked in, that we set an all-time record on housing price increases, up, I think they said 21%, which is a record that's never happened before. That's a great sign. We have an economy that's going to be booming. It's going to be, a lot of jobs are being produced. The job numbers will be coming out shortly, meaning over the next week or so, and I think it'll be a continuation of the last 2 months. The last 2 months have been incredible. So I think we're going to have a great economy. You're going to have a fantastic next year. I think you're going to have a very good third quarter, actually, when the third quarter numbers come out. Interestingly, they'll be announced just before the election. They'll be announced around November 1st. So, yeah, I would like to see the schools open 100%, and we'll do it safely. We'll do it carefully. But when you look at the statistics I just read having to do with children and safety, they're very impressive. They have very strong immune systems.
But you would understand that the children who go to school, then go back to home, some live with their grandparents,
Sure.
that there's a real risk. Would you understand if some
Well, they
schools...
do say that they don't transmit very easily, and a lot of people are saying they don't transmit, and we're looking at that. We're studying, John, very hard, that particular subject, that they don't bring it home with them. Now, they don't catch it easily, they don't bring it home easily, and if they do catch it, they get better fast. We're looking at that fact. That is a factor, and we're looking at that very strongly. We'll be reporting about that over the next week. Please.
Mr. President, at least 3 governors today came out with new orders on mask requirements.
Yeah.
Is that something you wish all the governors would do?
Well, a lot of the governors, they have different requirements. Some of the governors are very strong on masks, others aren't. I think it's really going to ultimately be up to them. We've given them the facts. We've given them everything we know. They have their own facts. Some are strong on masks, and as you know, some aren't in the same ballpark. But I think all are suggesting if you want to wear a mask, you wear it. I bring one. I have one. I've worn it. And I think when I'm in certain settings like hospitals and or when I'm close, when you can't socially distance, I believe in it. Let's see, do I? I do. I have it. And if in certain instances, I think you really, I think you want to travel with a mask. There are instances where you really can use it. I would believe it would be a good thing. Yeah,
Sir,
please.
one just follow-up. D.C. Mayor Bowser came out with such an order today. It, of course, doesn't apply to federal properties, but would you encourage federal properties, and including the White House complex, to follow the order?
We're gonna make a decision over the next 24 hours. We'll let you know what that decision is. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
President Trump, do you agree with Senate Republicans discussing the possibility of extending short-term unemployment insurance today so that they prevent benefits from expiring?
Well, I think a lot of politicians are discussing that, Republicans, Democrats, and right now a lot of my representatives are on the Hill. They're discussing CARES Act or Phase 4, whatever you want to call it. And I think ultimately something good will come out of it. The economy is starting to really come back strongly when you look at the numbers, even with the fact that, like, California is still closed up in many big states. I think the numbers are even more impressive considering that some states, like California, big ones, are pretty well shut down. So we expect to have something over a period of time, over the appropriate period of time. Please,
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. These two questions are with Andrew Feinberg and J.C. Bua. One is, today you said you're sending federal law enforcement officers to run cities run by extreme politicians, that's the word you used, who happen to be all Democrats, who have supported Black Lives Matter protests.
I didn't say who supported. No, I said Democrat politicians. And these are the cities where you have the problem. If you look at Chicago, if you look at Detroit, if you look, look around any of these cities where we have the problems. And we're sending them help, but we're really waiting for them to call for the big help, for the big numbers, for the large numbers of people that we have ready, willing, and able. You look at Chicago, where 14 people were shot yesterday, where over the weekend many people died and many people were shot, and over the last month they're setting record numbers. We are waiting for the mayor, respectfully, and other mayors and governors to call us. We are ready, willing, and able to go in there with great force. Now, we also have people that are going in and arresting drug dealers, arresting some of the shooters that are doing the shooting. We know who they are. We're working with police forces, and even though in some cases they're told don't work with the federal government, the police forces have great respect for the federal government, what we do. But we're ready, willing, and able to go into these cities that are just being decimated with shooting, and we're going to help. Please.
I have a question on crime, but first, I don't think we really got an explanation yesterday on why the health experts are no longer joining you at these briefings. Can you explain why? Because
they're briefing me. I'm meeting them. I just spoke to Dr. Fauci. Dr. Birx is right outside. And they're giving me all of everything they know as of this point in time, and I'm giving the information to you. And I think it's probably a very concise way of doing it. It seems to be working out very well.
Okay, so on crime,
but they're very much involved. They're very much with the relationships are all very good, all very good. The relationships that we have with the doctors, with everybody working on the virus has been, I think, extraordinary. Kaylee's here, and I think you would say the same thing. You work with them all the time. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So on crime, in 2016, you said it was President Obama's fault that homicides were up in Chicago. So why was it the president's fault then, but it's not your fault now?
Chicago is a disaster. The mayor is saying, don't come in. The mayor is telling us not to come in. At some point, we can void that if we have to, but we may have to at some, because it's out of control. I assume she's saying that for political reasons. I think it's negative political reasons. She's a Democrat. I'm going to be nice. She's a Democrat. She's making a big mistake. People are dying in Chicago and other cities, and we can solve the problem. They have to ask us, but we can solve the problem.
Why was it President Obama's fault in 2016? You credited it as
because
him.
President Obama was invited in, and he did a poor job. President Obama could have gone into Chicago. He could have solved the problem, and he didn't. In our case, they don't want us in. We can solve the problem very easily. We're equipped with the best equipment, the best people, and you see what we're doing. I mean, Portland was coming down. It was busting at the seams, and we went in and protected all the federal buildings. Those federal buildings are totally protected. And we had to do that. And Portland's a very different place than Chicago. But Chicago should be calling us, and so should Philadelphia and Detroit and others, to go in and really help them. Because when you're losing many people a weekend, many people, you see the same numbers as I do. When you're losing these people, they should call us and they should say, come on in. And it's incredible to me, but they're not doing it. At some point they will. At some point we may have no other choice but to go in. Jeff, please.
Mr. President, are you looking at closing further Chinese embassies in the United States? And did you ask Ambassador Woody Johnson to bring the British Open to your Turnberry property in Scotland?
No, I never spoke to Woody Johnson about that, about Turnberry. Turnberry is a highly respected course, as you know, one of the best in the world. And I read a story about it today, and I never spoke to Woody Johnson about doing that. No. As far as closing additional embassies, it's always possible. You see what's going on. We thought there was a fire in the one that we did close, and everybody said there's a fire, and I guess they were burning documents or burning papers, and I wonder what that's all about. Okay, how about one or two more, please?
Yes, thank you. Would you like to respond to Joe Biden, who today described you might have heard that, as the first racist to be elected president? That was his words.
Well, you know, it's interesting because we did criminal justice reform. We passed criminal justice reform, something that Obama and Biden were unable to do. We did opportunity cities. We did the greatest, if you look at what we've done with opportunity zones, nobody's ever even thought of a plan like that. Prior to the China plague coming into our country and really doing terrible things all over the world, doing terrible things, we had the best African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, almost every group was the best for unemployment. The unemployment numbers were the best. You look at employment, you look at opportunity zones, and maybe most importantly, you look at criminal justice reform, you look at prison reform. I've done things that nobody else, and I've said this, and I say it openly, and not a lot of people dispute it. I've done more for Black Americans than anybody, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. Nobody has even been close. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
On Ghislaine Maxwell, Mr. President, do you want to clarify what you said?
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us here at Golden State Times and choosing us as your stream source. If you would like to get notified for future live streams, all you have to do is text the word Trump Live to the number 555-888. As President Trump is going to start doing these press conferences more and more often. So if you want to get notified for future ones, text the word Trump Live to the number 555-888. If someone can put it in the chat, that would be amazing in case you guys need extra assistance. Trump Live to the number 555-888. If you're new to the channel, we encourage you to subscribe and click that notification bell. We cover the president fairly and completely here at Golden State Times. No matter where the president is or where he's doing a speech or a rally or whatever, we are there to cover him fairly and 100% completely. We are not like those other guys that only focus on rallies. We cover the president fairly and completely. If you missed President Trump's earlier speech, it should be up on the channel. It should also be coming up on your screen. Make sure you go click on it. You go over to the video, you give it a thumbs up, and you share it on social media along with this one. Thank you so much for being awesome, and we will see you very soon. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter at Gold State Times, and follow us on Parler at Golden State Times.